Welcome to Comfy Mods 102 for Era 6. We're starting off today inside our Allowed Mod section on Discord, inside the Comfy Info section. Once you're here, you're going to scroll down till you see the approved full mods list. We'll load up this Google Doc, and we're going to scroll down till we get to our building modes. Inside the building mods, you're going to actually see the third item here is a working Comfy Gizmo. It doesn't have a Thunderstore link, so we're going to use the Github link here and click on that to open a new page. So here we have our basic instructions for installation. We're going to actually download from the bottom of the page and then unzip this into a folder where we can direct Thunderstore to install it. So we'll go straight down here, click the zip. You'll see that pop up on the bottom of your screen. Go ahead straight in here. And let's unzip this into a location where we can find it later and try to keep our Valheim mods stacked together. You'll see when you do it the first time, you'll just have the gizmo.dll ready to go here. And that's where we're going to direct Thunderstore to actually use. So once you've got Thunderstore open and you've logged in under your normal profile, you want to go straight down to the settings button. Under settings, you want to scroll down till you see import local mod. It'll ask you to direct to that folder where you just unzipped the file. We'll choose that gizmo.dll in the background. This will ask you to do anything if you want to rename it. We're going to leave that just as it is. Hit import local mod, and you'll see that's now added to our installed list, and it'll always be at the bottom. We're going to go ahead and start right away and hit start modded and let the game load and log in. There we are, and on character with some building materials on hand already. We'll see when we actually go to build today. Start with something simple. We put down a wood post. You're going to see multiple axes around each one of these now. A red, green, and blue circle that now control your X and Y axis in addition. Let's go to settings under F1 and have a look at Comfy Gizmo here in this section. First off, we're going to go down and go ahead and set our keys to be exactly what we want them to be. The default setup uses shift for the X rotation. I shift it to control and then left alt. So I have control and alt on the left side of my keyboard that control my other rotation directions. You're also going to choose a snap division. Standard for the game is 8. This will typically download with 16 as your options. It goes all the way to 128. And 128 basically means you have 128 different directions you can snap inside a 180-degree plane. So if you choose 2, you only get 2 options inside this 180-degree plane. And so that's just flipping north to south, no alternate between 2 snaps inside the 180-degree plane. Not a lot of flexibility. So if we go back into Comfy Gizmo, and let's set that big time 128, our full range of motion. Let's make a post to stick this to. So there's our post. And here's our first piece of wood. It just snaps right onto the post. But if we actually adjust our angle here, just by a couple of degrees, a few rotations of your inner mouse wheel, you'll see it actually rotates that piece just a fraction of a few degrees each time you click the wheel. If you don't have a solid click on your wheel, it's definitely much preferred when building really finite stuff. Just a couple of clicks really makes a difference. And so just keeping that just normal rotation direction you have, you'll actually just scoot this around, and instead of just making a single wall, you're making something that looks a bit more like art. So feel free to play around with this as you get started. Let's go ahead and set this back to a lower number so we can visualize the actual movement of the axis a little easier without taking forever to rotate. So we're going to set it to 16. So that's our normal 16 snaps. If we're going to hit the left control, you'll see the red wheel lights up. That tells you it's going to pitch forward and back because you're now working on this plane. And you can turn what was a wall piece into a floor piece now. This is how a lot of people make easy ramps. A lot of the times if you're going to actually make anything that you want to march a locks up, you can actually make ramps using these now, where you actually have a longer piece for fewer pieces of wood. And the next thing you know, you're marching up into the sky in a hurry to elevate anything you want to really quickly. It's a little safer than building a ladder up. But basically, you want to start playing around with these angles to decide exactly what you want to build in game. Also, one of these quick slots you want to go ahead and set while you're in game to make sure this key is exactly as you want it is the actual rotation key and the reset button. This actually is typically set to V, which is also some players' quick pick up and not pick up button. So you might want to set this to something else. This basically resets your last rotation. When you hit it, it just snaps it back into that original position in case you want to quickly switch directions for your build. In general, just get used to the buttons, presets. I use left control and left alt, of course, but this will give you a full range of motion. Keep in mind every time you switch a direction, you can get quickly off and get in some wild angles. But that's how you build the most interesting stuff, by really breaking it down into 128 snap points and adjusting those pieces very, very carefully to form exactly what you want to see. Now, a companion piece to this is going to be Euler's ruler. We're going to go through, that's actually in the regular Comfy Mods pack. If you get the mega pack, you'll actually get this. We're going to enable it today. When you pick up, you're going to see this instantaneously gives you a read off of exactly the position that this piece will occupy in space and in game. So if you wanted to, you could quickly adjust this to a fine number and mimic that number the next time without any issues. It kind of gives you a little more to go on when you're learning the system, exactly how much you're rotating a piece each time you click. And it'll help you plan out the math for really, really tight builds that use a lot of snap points. It's easy to get a little off and find the next thing you know, you're kind of in the weeds with a build and things are going out of whack pretty easily. But feel free to play around with this. Gizmo is pretty refined compared to what it used to be. There's a lot of control now. If you feel like you have any major issues with it, especially when it comes to really big builds or really fine crafting, the builders channel will always have experts inside the Gizmo world who can give you really specific directions on how to improve your crafting and make it truly something special. But as you see, just a simple wall piece suddenly starts to look a little more like art, and you can imagine as another mod to color these out, you can actually make something that turns out to be very interesting itself without having anything really fancy to start with. That's the basics of getting started with the Gizmo building mod. Hope you enjoy your time in Comfy.